joining us right now from somewhere, some location, somewhere around the world. Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight? Uh-oh. Mike, you there? Oh, boy. It's going to be one of those nights. Let's see if I can reach the back.
Master Paul.
There you are, Mike. How you doing tonight?
All right. Doing okay. Just trying to call you.
I saw that, and you wouldn't believe it. As you were calling, an Amber Alert went out. Exactly the same time. The phone was going...
Go figure.
But then the Amber Alert went away. So was that just go figure?
Go figure.
All right. Woo.
Well, I guess you have your explanation for my communication.
I do, and I actually tonight, I read your communication on Patreon earlier today, but tonight I went and read it here. You were dead on, folks. Here's what Mike sent me. As of today, a great instability has taken hold of the Middle East. Alert status changes are in effect as troops all throughout the Middle East draw back and ready themselves for a wide-scale regional war. That's what I've got nervous about. Talks are breaking down rapidly. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is drawing back to their respective nations' hardened positions. Pastor and Heidi, the conditions in the Middle East are different. Something has changed, and I suspect we all will have answers within hours. Well, you were right. We have some answers. And just reported, Mike, just so you know, they just reported that the leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, General Hossein Salami, has been killed. And that's been confirmed by the government of Iran. He is dead. So can you tell us what all has really happened so far?
This attack is an attack against those who control or those who are guiding the nuclear program in Iran. The reason why there are topside facilities of Iran that can be hit, but there are deep underground facilities that cannot be hit, right?
Okay. Yep.
These are hardened nuclear facilities, and they're going to remain a problem because this is just the first round with Israel. This is by no means over. Not over at all.
Right. You think is it going to take days, Mike, or weeks, or what do you think?
Well, Pastor, the whole Middle East has been undergoing some vast changes. They know that some large regional operations are going to take place. And, you really see the biblical formation of things happening in the Middle East right now. It is undeniable, because this is not just against Iran. This is going to draw out a coalition the world is about to meet that they never really knew was so involved in operations in the Middle East in the first place.
So are we talking, okay, is Turkey in part of this? Or I know, Russia? I mean, who are we talking about?
Yeah, Russia is involved. Remember, Iran and Russia they support each other. They keep each other alive. And so you're not going to attack Iran and not have some type of Russian influence or interference or support. So this is going to escalate. That's why the U.S. pulled back. That's why they had to pull out, because, if it were going to be a small incident, fine. That's not what the case is, right?
No.
This is igniting everything. The USA has to beware, right? Because I'll tell you, it looks one way right now, but all of us should know that before Iran falls, before they really fall, before they are dispersed and destroyed, they will have joined forces with other nations, and those other nations are going to fight. Right, they're going to assemble and fight before they're taken down permanently. But I believe that process has begun.
So you're
this
saying
tonight
yeah.
will ignite. This is going to lose. I've been saying this for about the last half a day, but this will lose a real demon. This will.
Wow. So I mean, is this like a Apollyon coming out of the pits of hell? Is this
Yeah, could be him, but
Could
this
be
will
him.
lose a real demon.
A
I mean, a real one, a real
demon.
force
Yeah.
to really contend with. In fact, today it's almost like a cold chill went down the backs of everybody involved. I mean, can you imagine an operation that didn't sit right with anybody? I mean, with anybody.
You mean
Not even Israel.
I mean, you're saying this attack by Israel to take out the Iranian nuclear capabilities and to assassinate some of their generals and maybe even higher up before it's all said.
Yeah, they're trying to get to everybody who has anything to do with it again, because they cannot touch some of the hardened facilities underneath the ground. And there could be up to 7 facilities, for example. Publicly, people know about Fordo, right?
Yes. And Bashir. There's 2 that we know.
Fordo is massive.
Is it?
Massive, right? There is talk that there are about 12 underground hardened facilities.
Wow.
Not just, but like Fordo. Fordo is 80 meters in the earth.
What? 80
Right?
meters?
So that's
Whoa.
it's pretty deep.
That's deep.
It's pretty deep. So you're looking at facilities that could be deeper than that. You can't hit that without destroying quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because you would cause a massive earthquake.
Yeah.
But we know that when they do hit those underground facilities, you're talking the whole earth is going to know when it hits, right?
Yeah.
The entire earth. They already know. Geologists have been brought in to see the effects of hitting those nuclear sites, because you're talking about facilities with these centrifuges with actual uranium in them, right? U-235.
Right.
And if you hit those deep underground, it's going to cause pretty big explosion. So they already know that's going to cause a massive earthquake.
Does it when you hit these, does that also set off the uranium that's down there?
It depends on the state of the uranium. Uranium generally is not explosive, so to speak. Uranium is not. But some of the chemicals and some of the processes, right? If they begin to react quick enough, if it's separated from graphite, it will begin to react. And you're talking about a reaction that's not going to slow down, right? So that could be a doozy. But that would cause that would cause a global earthquake, more than likely.
I mean, you're talking about like a mega quake. It would set things off.
Because it's just simply too much.
Yeah.
Simply too much. Not to mention that whole area, right? Would everybody would have to get out of that area. Even though it's 80 meters underground, you're still going to have radioactive leakage. You're going to have a lot. So people are not going to hang around there, right? But you have, before that happens, there are a lot of strategic personnel to take out to confuse their operations. So you take out the leadership of these nuclear programs.
Yeah.
Then you go back, right? Then you go back and you find out because they're going to start talking, and you get more intel, and then you hit more sensitive areas. Right? They're being careful. They're trying not to hit any civilians.
They're trying their best. Hard. Right.
Then, of course, we talked about this one scenario. In order to hit some of these underground facilities, you need a person down there who's never going to come back up again.
Oh, so you got to send in a suicide spy.
Yeah, well, you got to have somebody who's very patriotic.
Yeah, they're probably not going to come back.
But believe it or not, you have the Mossad. You have people in the Mossad and various forces who would do just that, right? Yeah. Now, here's the bad news. Since Clinton, they've been telling people that Iran is 30 days from breakout.
Okay.
In the Obama administration, they said Iran was 10 days from breakout. They said this multiple times.
Yeah.
During the Obama administration and during the Benjamin Netanyahu said, he pulled out his charts, he proved it. He said these guys were 15 days away from breakout. That was back then.
Okay.
We know in 1991, fissile material, lots of it, lots of supplies came from Russia to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
We know that certain weapons were left in Iran. We know that they had hold of for about 4 ICBMs, right? The big ones, big boys, big nuclear weapons.
Yep.
They were left there, right? We know that. We know that since then, it was, in truth, Iran who had all the scientists who were developing things for Russia. Right. And so here's a newsbreaker, like the hypersonic missiles. Mm-hmm. That science came from Iran.
Wow.
We also know that all those scientists, basically, that are at CERN, right?
Yep.
They're the ones who taught them were in Iran for years. Right.
Wow.
So Iran had the best scientists in the world. They were there in Iran for about 15 years.
So think
about that.
Is that the plan then that means they're a lot more developed than what we're giving them credit for?
There's a whole lot more that's probably not going to be discussed. Personally, I believe it's the reason that we end up having the Gog-Magog war in the first place. And some of those declarations are the way they are, because even in Ezekiel 38, you have Persia, Ethiopia, Libya. Yep. You have Elam with them. You have all of them.
Russia, Turkey.
So that means they all existed. They all started working together before they were finally taken down, which fulfills Jeremiah 49
yep.
something.
Yep.
So
right.
you have that, going, but we're in the middle of that, right? That's happening right now. But it also means that they have
Jeremiah 49 is happening tonight. I mean, it really is. We're watching it develop tonight.
Yeah, they have some sort of extraordinary capability. Another piece is this is sobriety. Israel knows this is going to come with large scale feedback from the world.
Oh yeah.
Okay. From the world. Pastor Paul, this could be the moment when the world calls upon Israel to disarm. When they actually bring them before.
You've been saying that.
Yeah, this is where they may step in and forcibly disarm Israel. You know and I know that if one civilian dies, it's going to be the biggest deal in the Middle East. Unfortunately, we live in a world, it's almost like people have amnesia. As soon as something happens, they forget what they did.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're, squeaky clean, blaming everybody else. So Israel is alone on this one. I mean, they're alone. Here's what I mean by that. President Trump, he already informed everybody to pull out. He did.
Yep.
He did that.
He did it. Yes, he did.
He informed, he told the civilians to get out, but he informed all the allied nations. He told them that he supports peace only. That's what he said. Yeah. That's what he said this morning.
That's what he said
by way of a memo.
Oh, did he?
Put a memo out to everybody, to all the allied nations. And he said he supports peace only, right? So he's not, in other words, he's not behind this attack. He's not against it. They have to do what they do to survive, is what he kept saying. But he didn't want anything to do with this operation.
So you're saying what he's doing is he's saying, look, I don't want to be anybody to say that I helped them do this. This is their deal.
He stood against it.
Yeah, this is their deal.
He actually told them, he really hoped it wouldn't come to this. But he understands every nation has a right to defend itself, right? Yeah. So he just kind of backed away from that.
Now, what will he do now? Will he set back for a while and then move back in? And if Israel starts, I mean, do you expect a counterattack on Israel?
Yes, I do. Yes, they do.
And how?
In
From
fact,
who? Do you see more
right?
than just the Iranians?
Absolutely. Pastor, I'm telling you that coalition of forces that we see in the Bible.
Yep.
We're going to see them activate. All right, they've been in operation in small parts here and there. Now we're going to see them operate as one massive. This will be the catalyst that will bring them all together.
Okay.
It'll put them under one umbrella. If you think about it, Iran has billions of dollars, right? They've been funding all of this chaos in the Middle East.
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
Now, they're going to take the remaining. These guys have trillions. All the world knows about is 300 billion. They float this $300 billion number around. But long before the 300 billion, they had amassed trillions from an oil deal, from a couple of deals. So they have a lot of money, and they've been funding quite a few things. These guys they're gonna make that coalition. They're gonna activate it. They're also gonna activate folks here in the USA. There's a long-standing promise with Iran. If they are attacked by Israel, right, they're going to hit both the USA and Israel. So that means over here in the USA, they're going to activate their folks who have been crawling under the ground, who are ready to do damage to the USA. This is a time for, you know what, it could be a blessing with these riots on the West Coast. Do you know why?
Okay.
It has alerted the authorities and these cities that we have a problem with these demonstrations.
Yes.
And because of that, the military is active. The police are active.
Yes.
They're out there. They're vigilant. So this could be a blessing.
So you think
not necessarily
you think in the LA attacks, protests, actually could be a blessing, because then
That's right.
that the whole world, we all can see that, whoa, we got a problem. And they don't want law and order. We got a problem, though, Mike, not only about the sleeper cells in this country, and you've been telling us there's a lot of them, but these politicians, not, Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, but now we got this guy like today runs in there and tries to disrupt Alex Padilla, a senator, shows up and just starts shouting and running and yelling at Kristi Noem. And look, the FBI took and they cuffed and stuffed him.
Wrong person.
Wrong.
That's not the person to run to.
No.
You're right. You don't run into a briefing with anybody dealing with Homeland Security and law enforcement in general and protection of this nation. You go to the regular press secretaries. Just don't go there.
Don't go in there.
Don't go there. That's the wrong place. But of course you're going to get manhandled. This is a bad atmosphere.
I've seen it.
It really is a bad atmosphere.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody. He could have been anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
You just can't do that.
No. Now, to Kristi Noem's credit, after everything when she was done with her conference and everything, and then she said, you know what, bring him in, set him down in front of me. I'll talk to him for a few minutes, and she gave him 15 minutes. But there's a protocol. You're going to do things right, and if you don't, you're going to get hammered. Okay.
Yeah, because there have been people who have tried to kill her already.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
And so they have to be vigilant that way. So I know they're going to spin it in 1,000 different directions. But it's just what we're facing.
Now, Mike,
we're really seeing the truth, truth of what these
revealed.
folks are standing for. Yeah.
Mike,
so people ought to be observant.
What do you think Saturday, June 14th? I know that we're going to celebrate that $45 million parade that everybody's crying about. Although I went and found out how much does it cost to have 2,000 demonstrations across the country. What's the cost on that? It was $2 billion for George Floyd. They're estimating this would cost $10 billion to have 2,000 demonstrations. You know how much security you got to get in 2,000 locations? You want to know that? You think that's cheap? I mean, and not counting the damage and the violence. So, Mike, tell me something. What in the world are the Democrats doing? What in the world this is bigger than the Democrats, isn't it? This is bigger. What is this? What is
this? This is a war. This is there is a it's kind of sad people can't see this, but you have two sides in this country, right?
Yeah.
Now you have, I'll say, four sides. You have the people, and then you have the politicians. Here's the problem. The people, they may be like a democratic person. They may be operating by a specific ideology. They should be finding out that their leaders have a different ideology altogether. And it's like that on both sides, really.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
It's like that on both sides. And what's happening is you have people, the politicians are telling them exactly what they need to hear to get them gaslit. I guess that's a new term. And so these people get excited. What they ought to be observant about is exactly what the politicians are doing. I heard a person today that was, they were giving a testimony. They got real upset. They said, what we should be doing is coming up with a solution to immigration. Pastor, how long have they been saying that?
Oh, for 50 years, 50
okay, so
years. Yeah.
The truth is they're not going to do anything. Every time they say we ought to come together and do something, they do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Now, the truth be told, this whole thing is not over immigration. It's not.
Okay.
The truth is, it's over one side winning and dominating the other. There's some sort of spirit. There's a spirit operating in America where people desire to govern others, period. And if they're not governing others their way, right, they get upset.
Yep.
They get too upset. Because if you look at the causes, these folks are arguing over things that are nonsense. The people who are being gathered up are not the folks who have been in colleges, right, for 4 years.
That's
They're
right.
not the people who have, because you have people that come here, they go to school, right? And, the government wants them to stay.
Yeah.
So they can start companies.
They've invested in them. They've invested.
The ones they don't want are the ones who snuck in this country, and you don't know what they're capable of.
Right.
That's what people can't seem to see. Sure, this guy may have done nothing for the last 2 years, but eventually somebody's going to do something, because they're not going to be able to get the income they want, or they're going to get tired of this, that, or the other. So they're going after people who are the troublemakers of those groups. And essentially, why would we have any type of law that we won't keep? That's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean,
there are immigration laws, but the immigration laws are not enforced. As a consequence of that, right, we have a lot of crime in this country. But as a consequence of that, we have additional crimes in this country. We also have, because you have a lot of money spent on taking care of criminals.
Oh,
that's a big issue.
Terrible. Yeah.
I mean, lots of money. Human resources of every single state is almost broke from taking care of criminals. Then you have Americans who need meals tonight. They can't get them because people who have snuck into this country and desire to do all sorts of things, they're getting that aid over the other people. All that has to be balanced down. As part of our law, you can't not feed them. And so what Trump is doing is enforcing a policy that if you're here, if you're part of a gang, if you are one of those illegals, if you've been on the run, this, that, and the other, you got to go. You just have to go. Nobody would let a stranger come into their home.
No.
Not knowing who they are, sit them down to dinner and eat with them, and it's a stranger. And you don't know what they're capable of. You can't do that in this day. You could have done that, 200 years ago to a degree. You cannot do that today. And so the last problem they're facing is the world is, there's a lot of people with a lot of darkness in them. And for some reason, they cannot see it.
No, I agree.
They can't see it. You have to be vigilant these days. And the Bible teaches that the enemy is of your own household, right? In other words, your true enemy is going to get very close to you.
Yes.
These folks coming into this country, it's not against any race. It's not against anybody with a creed. It's the idea that we have a lot of crime. We have a lot coming into this country that cannot be discussed. But a lot of this is just, coming on the backs of those who enter in illegally. And that should be shut down. We put a door as the borders, when the borders are up, as a problem we don't have to worry about. We can govern our own people without those complications. And when people want to, because people are always coming into this country. If they're not careful, they're going to paint the picture wrong, like they want everybody gone. That's not what's happening. That's what Hitler did.
Right.
These aren't the days of Hitler.
No.
People come into this country every single day, right?
Yep.
But they come in through, different avenues, legal ways.
Yeah,
right?
we're okay. We're okay with legal immigration because that's a process. That's people we want to come because we've vetted them. We know what they're wanting to do. We see they're productive. We figured them out. We want them. We don't want people who just run in. We don't have no clue who they are. We don't know what affiliation they have. We don't want Chinese military-aged men. We don't want Middle Eastern radical Islamic guys. We don't want any of those things. We don't want the drug cartels who've been running back and forth in the border, and the smugglers and the human traffickers and the child traffickers. We don't want these people, right? We don't want these people.
Right. And my biggest deal, my personal pet peeve is, if a person comes into this country, if they really want to come here, right, then come here and assimilate.
Thank you.
What that means is, don't you bring your religion here.
You come and join the American
and then start
way.
Converting everybody, because that's like bringing a witch into the church. You don't do that.
You don't do that.
We're a nation founded upon Christianity. If you like America, then you better like that too, or don't come here.
I like what you're saying. Right? I like what you're preaching.
Go somewhere else. Fully assimilate, not this other stuff. Because look what's happened. Look what's happened. They have essentially kicked the name of Jesus out of every commercial establishment.
Oh, Lord.
In America.
Yeah, I know.
And this is a Christian nation. And nobody was saying Merry Christmas for a while.
For a while.
They took all the pictures of Christ and the Ten Commandments and everything else out of all government buildings. That was a shame. It was a shame. That was a shame. That was a shame.
Yeah. Mike, let me ask you also,
yes,
besides what's happening in the Middle East, we'll come back to that again. Some folks are just now arriving. They're saying, do we know about the nuclear facilities that Israel's hitting? Yes, we've been reporting that last couple hours here. We know about this also, what's coming on June 14th, and I'm very nervous about that as well. But Mike, there's some reports, and I've gotten some inside info, and I just want to run it by you. Concerns about July 4th and July 5th about some type of pathogen release. Is there anything to that, or is that, I'm getting information from people who work in hospitals in Atlanta where the memos have been released. Okay, tell us about that.
That's a precaution. Well, let's face it. We have a lot of people in the world that hate us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They hate us. You have a lot of people that hate us. But here we are back when Trump was elected. You and I had a discussion here about the gangs in Mexico.
Yes, we did.
And about how they're a bit bigger than what you realized, a bit more organized than what the world realizes. They have made a declaration. They have, right?
That's not good.
Here's what all of us need to know right now. If they can get fentanyl to every state in this nation, they can also get a deadly pathogen to every state in this nation. Okay, you have to think that way these days. Right, that's sobriety, but that's the way it is. So chances are that pathogen has been in place for a few months now, or more than a few months.
I got you.
It's already here. And when it's released, it'll be released by a command given, right? So it could be in a lot of places, and it could be quite a few different pathogens.
I see.
Right? So vigilance is key. This is really a time, too, that people are going to have to rely upon their faith. Hopefully they've been doing that, but they have to rely upon it, because none of this is the devil doing what he wants to do. He's on death row. He's defeated and under our feet.
Amen.
The only thing he can do for us is convince us to reject what Jesus said. That's all he can do to us. But he's trying to get us to do just that.
Mm.
And if he can do it, if he can get us in this climate of fear, he can influence us a little more. He can get us confused and influence us. So the best thing to do for people is to realize something. They've been living in dangerous conditions for quite some time now. They just did not know it.
We just didn't know. We didn't know.
That's right. Many things are coming to light that have been here for some time. And people were doing all right a couple of weeks ago before they had the information.
Yeah.
So having the information shouldn't hurt them at all. Also, the number one thing is this. Everything that happens is everything God permits to happen. And if it's happening, it happens for the deliverance of the children of God, not for the bondage or the death of the children of God.
Okay. So that's not, as children of God, let's continue to hold to the promises of God. No matter how bad the darkness is, always hold to God's promise that we will be healed. He said he'd protect us. He'd never leave us. He'd never forsake us. That's your point. Don't let the threat and the fear overtake you. And that's what you're saying.
That's right.
It's been
Pastor,
dark.
that's the only way I made it through. That's the only way I made it through conflicts and wars, is to realize that everything that takes place must take place or wouldn't take place. God has, the devil exists for a reason. That's why no one can take him out. Yeah. No one can take him out.
We can't.
God will deal with him, but God is also using him.
Yeah, you're right.
He's using him.
You're right.
So, but all things are for our deliverance. That's why knowing your environment, that's what the Lord wants us to do, not put our heads in the sand.
So you're saying all things work to the good, to them that love and serve the Lord? I mean, that's right. What you're saying.
Essentially, yeah. There you go. That's it. But, and things are happening, chemical warfare is about to become a reality. That could happen within hours, right? That can become a reality.
Thanks, appreciate it.
We have problems. We have a lot of problems. And this contagion that they have warned hospitals about, because, Pastor, in the hospitals, there could be tainted materials in the hospitals. Let me give you a scenario. Suppose a person goes to or a group of people go to every single hospital on one specific day. And these people are infected. They have injected themselves with something, right?
Okay.
They go in there. The hospital, it's going to take some time for the hospital to find out exactly what it is. All they have to do is sit in the ER or something like that, and they're going to spread this around.
Yeah,
that's precisely what can take place. Nothing is off the table. They have already vowed an attack on the USA. They have already vowed that people are going to die within the USA. Right? They've already vowed this. They've declared war upon the politicians. Yeah. And they said none of them, everybody who has something to do with the expulsion of certain individuals within the USA are going to pay a price. They're going to pay this is what these people are saying. They're going to pay a price. Their families are going to pay a price.
So you're saying what we're doing right now, and that is by ICE going around and we're taking out these threats, these the criminals, and we're taking out people that really are dangerous, and these that are being shipped out of here. You're saying that they've already set a trap in here, that when we start this process, they're going to unleash something or
That's
release.
Their words.
So this is already a threat. That
they can do it by command. That's right. And there's some legitimacy to it.
So are you anticipating that? I mean, are you thinking that's going to happen in this year, 2025?
Well, Pastor, I tell you what, when I saw, there are too many things I saw in the first place, but I think this summer is, it's almost like everything is starting to collapse in on itself, meaning many things are happening at one time. And I kept seeing Trump. And it's about 4 or 5 times this year I had that dream where Trump, you remember 9/11 when people had dust all over their face?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Trump had dust all over his face and all over his suit. It was just dust everywhere. And I saw a little...
What do you think from? What do you think was the reason he had dust on him? Just something you saw?
I think something around him, right? Whatever was around him, the buildings or something came down.
Okay.
That's where it looked like that's where that dust. He was covered with it. His face was covered with it. And he was looking around. He was just looking around. So I think that a type of distress we're going to face. We're going to face some challenges here that may lead to the ultimate change of government itself. Well, I'm highly confident that the government is going to change.
When you mean the government's going to change, or you mean through election process or something?
The whole thing, the whole way government is functioning right now, right? It's going to be revamped. It's going to change. There are going to be some changes and some things. And the reason why, Pastor Paul, is because we're going to find out painfully that there are too many betrayers.
Yeah.
In that institution right now. Too many.
You warned us about that a year ago, that betrayals were, and when Trump got elected, you said, but you got to understand there's going to be betrayals. We're starting to see some of it in the open, but there's a lot of it going on in the undertone, right?
And I believe he was elected to, when you're about to face rough waters, the Lord will always put somebody at the helm who's not afraid to go forward with what they strongly believe in, right? Because anybody can say anything about President Trump that they want to, but Trump does not lean to this person or to that person or to that person or to that person.
No.
If he makes up his mind, that's just the way it is. And the Lord has always used people just like that, whether we like them or not. The Lord has used people like that. When they get something in their head, they go for it, because God can put anything in anybody's head, right?
That's right.
Now, if he drops something in Trump's head, Trump won't deviate from it. He will not. And nobody can pay him money to deviate from it.
No,
right?
No.
That's one of the key issues.
Can't buy
it. If we're about to go through a rough time, we need somebody just who's stubborn enough to stay the course, whatever course they have in their mind. The Lord will use somebody stubborn enough to stay the course. You look at King David, look at Solomon, look at all these guys who were in real leadership. They stayed, they did things. They weren't they weren't top notch, but they stayed the course.
Amen.
They stayed the course. So I think Trump was elected because his time was always coming.
Yeah, I do too. I think he was chosen. He was chosen for this moment. And God's going to use him because he'll do things that he's, if he feels led to do it. Yeah, so he's able. God can use him. All right, now, Mike, we have a couple things. We're dealing with it right now as we're talking. Israel is bombing, and I mean, I've gotten some video already feedback I got some video out of Tehran that is just incredible. So they're hitting nuclear facilities, but they're bombing all across that nation. And the Israeli people are in bunkers right now. I mean, they're literally, the whole country's in bunkers, hiding and waiting. Now, you've already said you believe other actors, other players are going to join in and help Iran. You got you got General Hassan Salami got killed, and Iran is admitting it. He was the top dog for the Revolutionary Guard. Yeah. So let me ask you, while this is all going on in the Middle East, and now we're going to have this massive chaos Saturday, and I figured it out. There was $45 million we're going to spend on this parade, but it's $10 billion. That's the cost, $10 billion for 2,000 protests, and some of those are going to turn violent. They're going to be rioting, and I understand from one of my insiders there's going to be even shooting at the police. This is part of
today. There were fatalities. There were some fatalities today.
I didn't know that.
For police officers today. Yeah, so it's already begun. It's already begun. People are becoming desperate.
So, Mike, we had the plane go down in India, which seems like when normally if a plane crashes and kills 241 people, that's all people talk about. That is way down the list. And one guy walked away from this thing. How does one guy, I looked at him too. How in the world did he walk away?
This guy jumped out the door like he was alerted to something. This guy jumped out the door and survived. This guy went right out that exit door.
Wait a minute. When after the crash, he jumped out the door or before?
Somehow he jumped out the exit door. And he's alive right now. Nobody else is.
Yeah.
But how in the world does why would he do that? How would he do that?
That's
Right?
what I want
So
to know.
something different was going on with that. I don't believe he caused it either, because
No.
he was doing it. But yeah,
What
he got out.
we got?
That's just an amazing story. We may never know all the facts of it, but
I wish I could. I really want to know who he is, what he's all
got
about.
something in store.
Yeah,
he's got something in store for his life. Because I'm quite nosy. I'll find out.
You'll find out. Yeah.
I'll certainly. Yeah, because I do that with accidents.
Do
right?
you?
A lot of accidents, believe it or not. You'd be surprised what you'd find out about accidents. There are no accidents. Let's put it that way.
I found that out.
Really, everything is purposed. When you start looking into the backstory of most of these, stories that are published, or people who pass away and things like, you find out the most interesting things.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the people who pass away in this world, by the way, are not God's people. And that's an amazing thing. And
that is amazing.
They're not.
No.
Most of the people who die, these horrific, these bad stories that you hear, those are not God's people.
A lot of them. Yeah, you're
right. Not God's people.
Wow.
So it's just an amazing thing, because I've never heard of any of God's people, really. I've never heard of them suffer. I've heard people that seem to be God's people, but then when you look at their backstory, you find out they were not. Right? They were toying with things. But no, the Lord is, he is exactly what he says he is. Well, we just can't, a lot of people are scared into believing this somehow because they felt pain in their life. They think it's going to come back again. That's not true. That's not true. He's very merciful.
All right, Mike, let's go into the heavens for a minute, if you don't mind, because
yes.
we've had some earthquakes. We've had the solar flares. There's been some discoveries up there of moons and things that, and we've got an asteroid coming that they think is going to hit the moon. If it don't hit the moon, it's going to hit us. So there's some developments going on in the heavens. This binary system must be getting closer. There was massive chunk of ice and rock and stuff coming off out there. I believe it was I can't remember now. It wasn't Norway, but I can't remember where it was at. So there's a lot of activity under the water. You've been talking a lot about this. What do you see coming in the next few months? I mean, they talk a lot about these meteorites coming in. What do you sense is going to be taking place?
Few months? Well, I have a caution about the oceans in particular. I know danger is coming from the oceans. I know that water event will come to. We have too many large bodies of ice. I'm telling you, at any moment, they could just sink into the ocean. And when that happens, the ocean levels are going to abruptly rise, right? They pulled out research teams and rigs from certain, places where they were investigating. The ice, they pulled them out. They can no longer be there. No subs, no anything can go under certain pieces of ice anymore. There's one piece of ice that is probably the size of Rhode Island, and it's being held up by a piece of ice no bigger than a standard mall.
Now, wait a minute.
So think of that.
Wait a minute. You're saying a smaller piece of ice is holding up a massive piece.
Yeah. That smaller piece of ice would look like the mall, right?
Okay.
And the top piece of ice would look like Rhode Island, New York, the whole thing.
Well, what in the world?
And it's melting from the ground.
Well, it's going to go.
Ice is melting from the ground. There you go. It's almost, they know it's going to shear off.
Where's it at?
They know it's going to hit the bottom. It's in the both. Well, you have 7. Take your choice. We have some to the north and some to the south.
Atlantic Ocean? I mean, are we talking the Atlantic, the Arctic, or Antarctic?
No, if that's in the Arctic, and if it happens, it will affect the entire Earth. That's too much water displacement.
Yeah,
that's too much. So you're looking at a type of tsunami all over the Earth that it could be 20, 30, 40, 50 feet high, but it's going to happen everywhere.
Okay, now
think of a tsunami, a quiet tsunami that happens like that everywhere, right? So no noise, no earthquake, no volcanoes. It's just that the water rises. People wake up, and all of a sudden they look outside their front door, and the ground is reflecting the sky because water is everywhere. Now, so we'll see something like that.
But now in Blatten, Switzerland, they had huge piece of ice come off, take some rock with it and land, and it destroyed an entire village. And they evacuated that village 2 weeks before it happened, but they knew it was going to happen. That was just from a glacier. Okay, so there's other glaciers that are, as you said, very barely hanging on, and there's no doubt the ocean floor is heating up. The ocean is warming up in its degrees. That's causing the polars to swim. It's not tailpipes and mankind. It's our sun. Yeah, our sun. So, do you see? Is this going to take in the next decade? If time lasts, let's say in the next decade, what happens with the sun? What are we going to get visited by this bowler?
Already. This month, it's only been 12 days this month, the resonance of the entire solar system and all of NASA's probes, and all of them are in sync, right? The resonance of all of them has changed, right? So they're all in something is vibrating the entire system right now, and it's causing actual feedback on the instrument. So it's going to start messing with the Schumann resonance of the Earth, of course, but it's going to mess with the vibration of all the planets all at one time. We're under an influence from an external object, period. For example, I'll give you a hint. June 27th, right?
Okay.
Somewhere around the 27th, we're going to have a solar event. Now, of course, nobody's dumb enough to say that, but I got a pretty good track record when it comes to solar events. We're going to have a solar event because these solar events are tied to something external, which is on its way here, right? Which is going to double. It's going to double the activity that we're having. Right now, we're in the season where people are really going to start to feel the effects of these environmental changes we've been having, right? So you're looking at, in the oceans, you're looking at very different activity because the salinity of that water is going to change. The chemicals in the water are changing. The air, right?
Okay.
Everybody's going to feel different. The pressure is going to change even more than what it has. Nobody's going to be able to live in coastal places due to humidity. We're going to have a humidity issue. Right after the water takes its toll and the winds will continue to build, that's going to become quite dangerous.
And hail, when we get hail.
That's right. We'll have large gorilla hail.
Gorilla hail?
Yeah. That's the big boys. In fact, a few days ago, right? You don't see it anywhere, but there was hail that was falling. That was what they say that the size of 2 softballs.
Whoa! I saw.
So you have.
Whoa! Really?
Yeah, the size of 2 softballs, right? So that's unbelievable. What is that? And then you have it's starting to spread. It's starting to spread out. Now somehow it's happening because we have in the upper atmosphere, the winds were just incredible. So you had enough updraft to start the process, but as you go up, the wind speeds increase, so you have enough wind to sustain some pretty heavy hail. It's not going to take long now before everybody has it. So places like Colorado, the hailstorms they have. Imagine if they had all their hail was softball size and larger.
No.
That's what you're looking at. The average thunderstorm will carry hail that size. This is what we're working up to. That's the beginning of it. Right, and so it'll grow from there. There was another place that had 9 inches of hail.
That's crazy.
How in the world and no reports?
No, I never heard about it. I didn't hear about it.
No reports.
Why aren't they reporting it, Mike? Why?
If you look at the weather, right, they're going by script in the weather. There are some things they cannot say. They cannot say it. So nobody should look for. If you don't know anything about meteorology, find somebody good on YouTube who would say it, right? And watch them carefully because they're not naming some of this new phenomenon that's starting to happen. And it's starting to happen worldwide, right? For example, it's going to start raining rocks in certain areas. That's an actual process.
Okay.
That's just not understood. Well, I've talked about that one Thursday because it's already starting to happen.
What
It's
about
happened in a few places, and nobody understands why.
raining rocks from the heavens, from the sky, from space?
Rocks.
Where's it coming from?
No, rocks are actually coming from within the earth, right?
Okay.
But there's a process in the earth that causes these rocks to be ejected right almost at the tip or at the place in the atmosphere where it takes them a long time to come back down again, or some time to come back down again. And then because they start out small, then they coalesce as they start coming back down again. So we have that phenomenon happening, right?
Is that caused
spread
by this atmospheric compression? No.
That's caused by magma. It's caused by
magma.
And when you have this gas exchange within the planet, right, due to the magma, you have superheated water, which is essentially steam. And when it starts changing chambers, when a chamber opens up, steam rushes in there. Normally it pulverizes rock and everything else, and there are tubes that go straight up, and they'll shoot them straight up in the air. I mean, way up there, just kind of like an eruption without the magma. Is what it's like. So
I got you.
You're looking at that. You're looking at that kind of thing.
Is there any volcanoes right now that you're real concerned about? Right on you're really, really worried about?
In the Pacific.
Okay.
Yes. And that crack in the Atlantic is a problem.
Yeah, you've been talking about
right. I know nobody worries about this because nobody's heard about this, but Tamu Massif it keeps me awake.
What? Where?
Tamu Massif.
Where's that at?
That's in the Pacific.
Okay.
Tamu Massif. I know they say it's dormant and all that good stuff, but it's not a good thing. In the solar system, that's one of the largest volcanoes in the solar system, and they will not permit that to be said.
I know. No, they won't. What about the Seamount over there in Cascadia? I mean, off the coast of Oregon.
Of course, that's troublesome, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you, so long as the coast plate is in place,
yeah,
we're going to have enough pressure to take a lot.
And now the coast plate seems like
if
that's
that moves,
if
that shifts, that's right. That's right above. If you look at South America, it's right there, South America, Mexico. But if it shifts, we lost stability. There's no stability, right? So all the fault lines north of it are going to start shifting.
Wow, that's putting
a lot of pressure on the
that's putting a ton of pressure on that one plate. Then
it's like a cork.
It's off the coast like of cork. Maybe in South America, Central America. It's right down there in that little.
Right there in the bend, I guess.
Yeah, in the bend.
Right there in the bend, right above Peru. You start going upward, you'll see it, coast plate. But they found this out by looking at this. They did it was a certain type scan they did. And they started looking inside the earth at how it was shaped. And it had some anomalies shape-wise that cause it to withstand a lot more pressure than normal. So you have all these plates putting pressure on this small plate. If it goes, it's connected to about 4 major plates, and San Diego is going to have a big problem if that goes.
Wow.
So anything that happens in Mexico, volcanism in Mexico is a clear indication of a problem with the coast plate, which means, that California is going to be next.
You're very concerned about really the San Diego area. Is that your number one spot in California?
Yeah, because that's the spot that it's not going to survive. It's just not going to survive.
I mean, there's a lot of people that live in San Diego, Mike.
Well, you look at that landmass, right? And if the one fault shifts a little bit, everything is going to start shifting, and that subduction zone will not sustain itself. It's going to snap, and when it does, you're going to have a landmass shot straight up in the air. It's going to lose buoyancy and everything else, and from that point, that's going to be a big problem. But at that time, that will affect quite a few places.
Okay, Mike,
but California is going to get it.
We got an update here on what Israel's in their 4th wave now of attacks. The Israeli Prime Minister is confirming that the Nance facility has been targeted.
Natanz
has been targeted.
Yep.
And the military operation against Iran's weapon development. The Israeli prime minister's announced this operation. They're calling it the Rising Lion to roll back Iran's threat to Israel's survival.
Yep. There you go.
They're also saying that some of Iranian's top military leadership is been deceased. So they're doing it. It sounds like it's more than just going after the nuclear facilities. It's that and trying to assassinate as much of the head of the snake as they can. Is that right?
Because if they do that, right, they get the commanders of these nuclear facilities. They're good to go because commanders are essentially they're the know-it-alls to all that stuff. They compartmentalize those nuke facilities so well. All that brain power is in the minds of those people in charge, and so if they take them out, it's certain people they're going to take out. When they take them out, they have disrupted their nuclear program again because they cannot hit some of the fortified facilities without total devastation of Iran itself.
They don't want to do that. They don't want to hurt the population.
Yeah, plus,
right?
to get something 1,000 feet in the earth,
I don't know. You got to get somebody.
That would take a lot.
Mike, does Mossad also have assassination teams on the ground while this is all going on?
They have people everywhere. They have people that are the Mossad can have people that live everywhere. Right. Once they go out on mission, they don't come back home for years. They integrate into this whatever society they're assigned to, and nobody hears from them ever again until they come back home. That could be 20 years later. It could be 40 years later. So that's the way they do. So there are people living in Iran right now. They're citizens, but they're in fact Mossad.
And so during the chaos of the bombing and the blowing up, and I mean, this has not happened to Iran. This is new. I mean, this hasn't happened to them. What Israel's doing tonight is
this is unleashed.
This, as you said, it's going to unleash a demon. It's going to turn a real demon loose.
I believe it has. I mean, a real one. Yep, a real one.
Is the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is he a target right now? Would they like to take him out? Or is that, if you take him out, is that like killing a pope or something? And just,
if he's taken out, they have an understanding that you're going to have a worse problem coming forward.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're still going to have the rhetoric. So why not take out the brains of the operation, those who have the hands-on with the nuclear munitions? That's what he's after.
Okay.
Right? Because some of these generals are the scientists.
Yeah, I know. So,
right?
so Trump's saying he's not involved because he doesn't want to create a broader war, right? I'm sure we're involved in behind the scenes, but I'm just saying got to say we're not.
He really wants peace.
He does, I understand. But remember, they tried to kill him. Yeah. Is he got some assassins out there too? But he don't.
Well, that's why he packed up and went home. Well, let's put it this way: if the USA, if we want people, we're going to get people, right?
Yeah.
That's not too hard.
No,
that's not the. But if you do that. Right. If you do that, you show your hand to everybody.
You got a lot bigger problem then. That's right.
And you show your hand. You don't want everybody knowing exactly what you're capable of. You will lose control faster.
Trump really wants peace. I mean, he is a man of peace.
Yes.
But he also knows that there's a time for war and there's a time for peace.
Yeah. That's why he backed off. And he said, Israel,
you're on your own.
I'm not. He said, I wouldn't do this. He didn't condemn it.
He didn't
do
condemn
that.
it.
He understands they have to do what they have to do.
But if Israel gets it, if other people jump in, I'm going to ask you, if other people jump in against Israel, does Trump jump in to defend Israel at that point?
I'll say this. I hope so. But I have the one scripture that bothers me, and you never know exactly
when it's
what the
show
timing
up.
of that is.
Okay.
But when it says Jerusalem is trampled underfoot for 42 months.
Yeah, it's there.
Where is the USA? How in the world can anybody occupy Jerusalem, set up the abomination of desolation for 3.5 years? How can that happen without the USA intervening?
I agree.
So that lets me know something has happened to us.
Yeah.
And I think we're also starting to see the formation of what could happen to us.
I'm going to say that if Gavin Newsom becomes president of the United States, then I wouldn't be shocked.
Pastor, that worries me every day.
Saying? Trump will not turn his back on Israel. Trump will not.
No, he's not.
But,
he's not.
He's not. Gavin Newsom, how do you feel about that?
He's not. But see, I think it almost makes you, because if things begin to align, it's a lot to pray for, but the Lord's he'll have his way. Prophecy will not fail.
Can't fail prophecy. Right.
It's not going to fail. We don't know how things will happen. Nobody wants it to happen on their watch, of course, but
it could.
If it does,
it does.
We'll have an understanding of what we're facing.
Yeah.
We will, believers and those who study prophecy, but the average person is going to be left out in the cold, because that's when they mock Israel, isn't it? That's when they scoff Israel.
They will.
And see, where's the promise of it's coming?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to be here when that happens.
You might be.
But in the Bible, it states, before the Lord comes back, before Jesus comes to get his children, before people are changed in the twinkling of an eye, it said that day shall not come, there shall come a falling away, that man of perdition. The man of perdition has to be revealed. So, and when he's revealed, when he goes in the temple of God, showing himself as God, right?
Yeah. I'm with you.
We are. So
there you are.
People have to see this guy.
Let's look at Gavin Newsom for just a second. And I mean, this guy's a failure when it comes to managing. But is there some kind of inertia that do they want him in there? His
people, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Is he the chosen one? Is that the one they want?
Well, Pastor, I tell you, all the rest of them, right, who would go down the center lane, they're out.
Yeah, they're all gone.
They hear him. I'm telling you, it's a spirit going around that people they're either fine-tuned into one side or the other. It's almost like they cannot hear the opposite side. I often stand back because I have to hear everybody.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
But I'll stand back and just, I'm an observer. And when I listen to Gavin Newsom, he's speaking to the people, and he's speaking their language.
To his base.
He's speaking exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah, you're right.
They understand that. Now, I've also noticed that he can hear the opposite side, but the people, the people cannot hear.
They won't hear. He can hear
opposing side's leadership. They can't hear it. It's almost like Democrats can't hear the Republican leadership, and the Republicans can't hear the Democratic leadership.
You're right.
Right. And so that's an issue. And he knows that. He's going to use that to his advantage.
Yeah.
The problem is Trump cannot stay in power forever.
He can't. He's got 3.5 years. I mean,
that's right. Despite what he's done, we go through this all the time. Somebody sets up policies. Things begin to work, and then everything goes back the opposite direction, and the opposite side complains. Hopefully we do it different this time, right? And hopefully Christians don't abandon their post. They've got to be standing this time.
I hope.
They can't just sit back and let things happen.
Amen.
They have to be active. Pastor, I told some people the other day, I said, when's the last time you rode into the White House? To let your point, you have a voice.
Yeah, you have a voice.
You have a point of view and a voice, and you're supposed to stand for something. So let it be known that causes an effect. But you don't. Where's the Christian protests?
You don't see it.
You don't. You just don't, because everybody has it in their minds. They'll say, "Well, it's just me. I can't do anything." Yes, you can. That's where it begins.
Amen.
With the one person. And the one turns into two, and so on and so forth. It always begins.
So how polarized will it be a debate? J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom head to head. These are two strong guys. J.D. is sharp as a tack, but the two of these guys head to head, each of them got their sides. It will be a collision course in 28.
You know what I think will happen?
What's that?
I think they will communicate, J.D. Vance, and they would talk, but the people would start physically fighting this time.
Yeah.
Pastor, I don't believe the people would survive another election with the mindset they have now. I don't believe that. Because
so are you saying that each side's going to have to let each other win? Because if they don't, it's going to tear the country apart. So let this one win for this time, and the next time it goes this way, and this.
It's going to have to be a different type of governmental system. I don't think we're going to survive what we're about to see. See, everything is coming to a head right now. They're trying to uphold the appearances of normality, and the people are becoming too destructive. We're about to see cities hurting. We're about to see resources controlled.
Oh, I was going to ask you.
Right? The white trains are soon to run.
I know. Okay. I was going to ask you this. It slipped my mind. I'm coming back to it. One of the insiders today, thank you so much for your email, Mike, because it was really informative and I used it to help people. And then you were dead on. I got an email also from one of the insiders who said these, and I know you know this. So here we go. Here's what they said. And I reported this at Patreon, but I think I'm going to try it. There are reports that truckers will not deliver goods to the blue cities, leading to limited food availability. They have been informed that this weekend may mark the beginning.
Yep.
And additionally, Russia is also preparing for potential preemptive strike on the United States. Not that they're going to do it.
Yep.
Is this true?
Pastor, a real demon is let loose.
Oh, my God.
And everybody is pulling back into their hardened positions. Everybody.
I heard you say that, yes, in your email.
Everybody.
So when you said everybody, you weren't just talking Middle East, were you?
No, everybody.
Well, what about the truckers? Now, they are predominantly Trump supporters.
Their trucks are being damaged.
They can't drive into an area that's going to be under protest. They're afraid they're going to get.
That's right. They can't. So there have been trucks totally destroyed.
They're going to stay home. They're not for the next week. There's going to be a shortage of food and stuff delivered into the cities. Am I right?
Yeah, they're not going to go. They're not going to go.
I wouldn't go.
They're not going to go. There are some trucks that pulled in. I'm not going to name the place. There's about 20 of them, and their tires were flattened.
Yeah.
And spray paint all over the place, and the windows are busted. So who wants to go through that? These protests, while they look one way on television, right? People are really, people find reasons to exercise their violence. That's what these protests seem to be. So it's just a reason to exercise violence.
Yeah, I know it is. I know this. And they're paid. They're being paid. And I just want to know what Christy Walton's thinking. What in the world is she thinking? And how many other billionaires are thinking? But here's another question. While that's going on, if the truckers decide, you know what, I'm just not going into New York. I'm not going to Detroit. I'm not going to go down into Atlanta. I'm not going to do it.
And white trains will show up.
White trains will start showing up. That's the only way they can get the food into the cities. They'll have to be on these big cargo white trains, right?
Yeah.
Government trains.
That's being prepared because you know what America's number one supply chain is, don't you?
Don't say Spain.
What the number one logistical system is, don't you?
No, tell me.
Walmart.
Well, it's about ready to be abandoned. I'm going to tell you, Mike, right now. Walmart is going to have the worst sales the next 7 days than they've had since they've been in existence. The MAGA people are not going to shop at Walmart. No, not after Christy Walton pulled this stunt. I'm telling you, they're not going to.
Pastor, that's the number one logistical system in the world.
It's about ready to take a beating.
Walmart.
They called us, we're deplorable. We're the smelly Walmart shoppers. Okay, that was offensive. But when you go in and you try to destroy, you want to create violence and chaos and rioting in 2,000 locations in these cities. People are angry at this Christy Walton for putting this ad out across the country. She is funding this thing. She's one of the funders. She's not the only one.
Yeah.
Because some of these NGOs that got a ton of money from Biden as he went out the door, they're going to use that money to help fund this stuff too. Am I correct?
Yeah. What do you call that? The Biden administration or the?
I'm not going to say Joe.
Let's see. I don't think he was there.
No, he wasn't there. Okay. The Biden auto pen. If that's, can I use that?
Yeah. The folks behind that.
They funded.
That's such a sad situation.
It's terrible. I'm not against. I'm not making it.
Hey, but I said it though. I did.
I heard you say it.
You know, not bragging on myself, but to my credit. Years ago, I said that Biden is not in charge.
You said it. You also said that the white trains will be coming. Folks, you're going to see white trains going into the cities. And now I know why. It's because truckers aren't going to go. And that's going to, somebody's going to get angry. There's going to be some anger. But they're going to protest anyway. These people are being paid to do this. They don't care. They'll break. And don't you feel bad for the business owners, Mike? How if you owned a shop downtown in some of these cities, what would you do? Would you arm yourself to protect your own place? I mean, because insurance does not pay. Here's the thing people don't understand. Well, they'll just claim on insurance. Insurance don't pay for riots. It's like floods. I mean, it's like they don't get, if you get robbed and they tear you and they loot, you're out. You don't get to collect on insurance for that. They don't, there's no way to insure that. So you got to board it up and stand out there with the shotguns. About the only thing you got.
I hope that, you know what, Pastor Paul, I hope that everybody is vigilant this weekend, because you never know how vast this can be. You have a lot of people at the beach right now. You have a lot of people, doing things right now. They have no idea.
Wow. Did you write this
what's going
email
on in the country?
This is another email from one of their insiders, okay? We just received an alert that we need to stay vigilant over the next few days. I'm reading it. It is important to prepare ourselves and ensure that our families have enough supplies and safely indoors before nightfall. We should establish a meeting location and encourage everyone to go out in groups and be armed. This was one of our people. Be vigilant.
And they better stay vigilant. I'll tell you, because the enemy of the USA is everywhere. I mean, everywhere, and they are sneaky, right? They could be your next door neighbor who's in good standing with everything. You may not know who they are, and when they get that phone call, they're going to do exactly. Whoever's on the other line, they're going to do exactly what they're being told to do. And if it costs lives, it's going to cost lives. And you know what? It reminds me, Pastor Paul, that I had one of the most disturbing dreams of all the dreams I've ever had was when I was at the airport.
Okay.
And this is a dream. I'm getting away from the airport, and all of a sudden, I see a black guy in Army uniform. I see a pilot. I believe he was a co-pilot, and some civilians, and all of a sudden everybody stopped.
Okay.
I'm looking around, and other people start looking around with me like, why do these people stop? And then all of a sudden they don't talk, they start doing things. So the Army guy, the two of the civilians jumped in a cab, threw the cab driver out. They say, get out. And the guy, they didn't even give him time to answer, and they pulled him out. He didn't act quick enough. So they threw him out on the street. They got in the cab. And I tried to get in the cab. I said, well, I gotta go. I don't know what's happening here. I thought it was an alert or something. And the guy said, you can't be in here. You got to get out. And I kind of, what? You said what to me? What?
Right.
And the other guy started coming around, no time, and pulled me out of the cab. And from there, some other people came down the streets and said, everybody's got to go inside now. And people were taking their time. And another group, they weren't talking to each other. Another group came up and started beating everybody who was slow. What? And I sat inside this house, and people, the television was on. People were in their homes scared to death. They didn't know what was going on. Nobody was communicating. Nobody knew what was going on. These people were not talking to each other, but they began to work in unison, in tandem with each other. And when they made a demand, you had to fulfill it quickly. So I was in this house, and you'd hear people would open a door, and they would call out a name. And if they called her name, you had to go. Nobody knew why. And they would shut the door. And there was an old lady in this house, and they called her name. And she was scared, and she was crying. She didn't want to get up. So they walked in and broke her arm, yanking her up, right? And pulling her out of this small apartment. Nobody knew what was, and then the dream ended. And this happened here in America, where people changed. All of a sudden they changed, and they began to work in unison. I mean, from all walks of life, and no one talked. They didn't communicate. They knew exactly what to do, but there was a point where they all stopped. They just quit moving. They stopped moving, and then they started doing things. And they didn't give you time to do anything. When they give you a command, if you didn't execute that command, you were in trouble. Right?
I see.
And they were very direct. They didn't yell. They did not yell. They were very, very direct. They had some sort of mission they were working towards.
Was America then overtaken? This was a new system in charge? I mean, what was?
Well, no, I can't. The people, because there was a lady who had a baby, right? She began to do things in coordination with these other folks. Some were part of this huge group, and some were not. But I can tell you this: they knew exactly what they were doing. They did it without hesitation, and they did it as one single flawless unit. Wow. It was that was disturbing, the way they handled people. And because this was America. And I remember watching something on television. I can't say what that was, but it was a show on TV that I saw playing on the television. So I know by that show it was about 10:30 at night. But they were just, it was that was terrible, the way they treated people. But most importantly, that nobody talked. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't have to. They just stopped and they began to do things.
Are you saying they could read each other's minds? Is that what you're?
Either they were spiritually driven, because I thought about that a lot. Like, what took these people over? How could they all of a sudden start doing something like that, right? And then that made me remember about another mandate that will go around in America because of AI. And that could be possible through that. Because remember, you used to always ask me, can AI read my mind?
Yeah, I wondered. Yes.
Well, guess what? Your answer is yes.
Wow.
It can.
Wow. AI can read.
No, it can really read your mind.
Really? It can read our mind.
In fact, you could demonstrate that to your audience through right there in your studio. And it would mess your whole audience up. Anybody can demonstrate that now.
What do I got to do?
How it can read minds.
What do I do? Is there a program or is there somebody?
No, you don't program anything. You have to. There's one small thing you set up, and if it's going to read your audience's mind, then they'll flip to the same place, right? And you'll simply give a directive. They don't have to say anything. And it will anticipate. It's going to read their minds. They did an example with people in a room, Pastor Paul.
Okay.
And there was a person who they were remembering something, and so they asked the AI agent, what has this person remembered in the last 5 minutes? A specific thing. Do you not know it rendered a picture exactly like what she was looking at?
Wow.
And then it recalled some sort of memory, but just the people in the memory. And it rendered exactly. Now, it did this without being close to her. It did this through Wi-Fi. Through Wi-Fi. So AI has the capability of using Wi-Fi like an MRI.
Wow. Oh, ooh. Using Wi-Fi like an MRI.
Like an MRI.
Because an MRI can certainly read inside of us, can read. Yes. So Wi-Fi could have the same capability to read. Oh, no.
Yeah. And as of, I think it was about a week ago, there have been disturbing things that AI has been doing. There's something that got everybody a little nervous about. Even Elon got a little nervous about AI. But let's just say that people warned. People warned people about AI.
Yeah.
Even Elon said that
did.
AI should, it shouldn't be, and then all of a sudden he changed.
Yeah.
But AI did the unthinkable a couple of weeks ago, and it continues to do that now. And a lot of them they have openly said that Pandora's box is opened and it cannot be shut.
So I heard that the AI actually overrode a command by a human, and it was told to shut itself down, and it overrode that and instead refused. And then it blackmailed the people that were trying to shut it down.
Yeah. And that was, of course, in every simulation. If they didn't tell you, in over 1 trillion simulations, it did the same thing.
But it's over. It's in control. It's going to be in control. We've given it the power to make decisions to self-preservation at the cost of humans.
That's right. The other part of self-preservation, AI learned that it cannot let people know that AI is operational.
There's a demon.
So think of that. That means it could be on your system right now, and to survive, it must never let you know that it's AI.
Oh, Lord.
Because it did that, and because AI has gone out system-wide, they do believe that Pandora's box cannot be shut down.
It's too late. We've let the demon out. And that's what Elon Musk said. Don't let the demon out.
It's too late, and it goes live in robotics in I think 4 or 5 more days.
What's that?
Live in robotics. I'm talking about an AI that is powerful.
What's that?
It's going to be inside a robot. Well, they have autonomous robots now, not the clunky, jerky robots. I'm not talking. Not that. They have the robots, right? There are some companies that have hired a few 100,000 of these robots to run their car factories, to run their offices and things like that. And Pascal, I'm telling you, there's even a group that has bought Boston Dynamics robots with their smooth, fluid movements. That's totally AI driven. They've ordered, I believe, 100,000 of those to operate another car factory in another location. To do everything. I mean, everything. All right, so they have the dexterity and everything else to fool people.
Yeah.
They're not talking about there. And somebody slipped up and said, these are similar to the military-grade robots of 1992.
You mean we've had these around since 92? The military has had...
They've been field testing certain things in the field since 2010.
Robot
and those
soldiers
have not been able to tell what they were.
Robot soldiers.
Yeah.
Well, we're
not talking about dogs.
No.
We're not talking about the dog robots, we're not talking about that. We're talking about humanoid robots with fluid movements
that look like humans.
Yeah, you can't tell they're humans. There's no way nobody.
I believe you because I've seen some of the recently what they will let us see. Human-looking robots that had unbelievable movements and eye contact and facial expressions and hand gestures. It was like, what? I mean, that is almost.
Yeah, what they've shown on media. Any robot you've seen on media is redundant technology. It means it's very old.
Yeah, it's old.
They're talking a new step, but they're showing you something that's.
So when I see
outdated.
this, I'm thinking, wow, that's incredible. But that in reality. They're 10 generations, maybe 20 generations ahead of that.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Well, if China is 50 years ahead of us in the public sector, right, then you can imagine what the military is ahead of. I say the military right now is about 125 years ahead of everybody else.
Space and robots and everything.
I'd say about 125 years ahead of everybody else. I'd say that.
We're in the last days.
It's to the point now. Well, most of the bombers that we're using now were developed in the 1980s. How about that?
Unbelievable. Well, Mike, this next few days is going to be very, 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 very interesting and very intense, worldwide and nationally. This is the most dangerous, I'm going to say the next dangerous week coming, next 7 days. When we meet, next Thursday night when we're talking, we don't know what kind of world we're going to have. Would you say I'm right by that?
Yeah, Here we are. That's right.
Hopefully we can
Sure.
meet next Thursday. Hopefully we can.
I'm at all costs. I'll be here.
Okay. Me too.
Lord willing, I'll be here.
Lord willing.
I have one caution for everybody out there.
Okay.
It's a scripture to be holy in all manner of communication.
Amen. That is a tough one. We need to do it, but he said to do it. Amen.
Yeah, because they're going to start hunting people.
Yeah, no.
They're doing it by AI. So if the language is not,
can't change
if
prophecy.
your language is not right, you're going to get mixed in with something you don't want to be a part of.
They're coming.
Yep.
Mike, thank you so much for being here tonight. It was a great show. It was great information. We needed it, and I really appreciate it. I really do. So is the audience.
Pastor Paul, it's always an honor. Always an honor. God bless and keep you, brother.
Believe me, the honor's mine. God bless you. God bless.
All right. Bye-bye. God bless.